Most tracks on the F1 calendar are clockwise circuits, which means more often than not, right-hand corners dominate the track. And this got me thinking, how many tracks could you actually complete without the ability to turn left? Now obviously in this challenge we aren't going to be setting the time trial leaderboards alight. I don't do that anyway, when I can turn left, but even more so in this challenge. The only important thing in this challenge is completing a legal lap at every track in any time necessary. Some tracks I imagine are going to be impossible, but that's what we're here to find out. Now for the rules of this challenge. As stated a minute ago, a lap must be valid. If the game invalidates my time, that's a failed attempt and I have to start over. The lap must be done in one go, meaning no flashbacks, no resetting to track, and no getting into a good starting position beforehand. I can't turn left at any time during the lap. To avoid this happening, I've actually unbinded. Is that a word? I don't actually know, but we'll roll with it. I've unbinded my left steering input just to avoid habit getting the better of me. And finally, no use of the reverse gear, just to make it that much harder. Now before starting this challenge I made the choice to use a controller so it's easier to just turn right. Well, the actual reason was so I don't completely kill my wheel, but the important thing is I'm using a controller. I also made the decision to switch off traction control and ABS. I'm going to be needing to do a hell of a lot of spinning to point the car in the right direction, so no traction is the only way to go really. And having ABS off will help me stop the car from spinning easier and hopefully will prove useful. Now originally this video was titled "Can you win a championship without turning left?" No, you cannot. So from that little test run I knew I was in trouble from the offset. So let's get started. Immediately I realised staying on the left side curb or the grass was the most important thing. Turn 1 was obviously easy, then we're faced with our first challenge, an extremely gradual left turn. But with a couple of spins we're able to get onto the left hand side and we can continue our journey. I make it to turn 4 and make a rookie error immediately, forgetting I need room to spin around and end up soft blocking myself. I then proceed to sit there questioning my own competence until I restart. After another failed attempt, I decided to use the space available to me, which turns out to be much better. Turn 6 was a little scary as there wasn't enough room to spin. Instead I had to cut the corner as slowly as I could and luckily I got through it. The next bit was a little tedious but possible. Then we're faced with this monstrosity. Now I couldn't hit the wall too hard or fast because it would get invalidated. If I tried spinning against the wall because of the continuous curve I would eventually run out of space and get soft blocked. And so after countless attempts my only other option was to hug the wall and hope the car would eventually point left. Yeah, Australia is not possible. So we haven't got off to the best start. I'm one track in and I'm already a failure. I was wondering if this challenge would be possible at any track. Nevertheless, I went into Bahrain with an optimistic outlook. With a much wider track and a lot more room to work with, not only was it possible, but it was surprisingly easy. The only slight issues coming from turns 9 through to 11, however with some practice and plenty of space to work with, we're back on track and Bahrain is possible. Thank God, this video's not a waste of time. Onto the first anti-clockwise circuit, and I really wasn't looking forward to this, or more specifically, this. I'm in trouble from the get-go as the final corner is a left-hand turn. Luckily I'm able to wall ride and bounce to the left side without getting an invalidation. I don't know how that's not an invalidation, but we will take it. The next challenge for this track is turn 4, given how it's our most feared thing ever of a slight left turn. The problem with this was if I touched the left wall my time would be invalidated immediately, so I had to just miss the left wall, then slowly push myself off the right wall to be on the left side going into the second roundabout. Then I had to get spinning, and I won't lie, I attempted this for about an hour and every time I'd either get stuck on the inside or I'd get so far then stuck in this corner. I did think about continuing, then I remembered the final sector of Vietnam and I accepted that Vietnam probably wasn't possible. On to China, and I was hoping this would be a lot easier and a lot less stressful than Vietnam. I was so wrong. This is the worst part of the video for me. Now something I learned about China during this challenge, if all 4 wheels go off the track at any time at the final corner, you get an invalidation. This becomes an issue when you can't turn left and the corner in question is a 90-degree left-hander. I spent a good 20 minutes on this corner alone and finally managed to get a strategy to actually start the lap. Hope the AI points you towards the apex so you can get to the left side. Stop the car at this point so the logo just ends. Spin the car and lock the wheels before going off track. Then do a 180 turn once again and pray you have enough room to spin for a final time. So that's how you start the lap. Thankfully the rest of the lap wasn't too challenging. With plenty of room to work with, you really just need to be patient and make sure you get the car on the left hand side at each corner, with only a few places that seem to invalidate your lap time if you run wide. I made it onto the back straight thinking I was on for a clean run, and then I realised I'd have to do the final corner again. But this time, knowing if I failed it, I would have to do the whole thing again. So of course I failed it. Now I'm not going to lie to you, I tried this for a total of 3 hours and well over 100 attempts purely because I knew I could do it. I could do it to start my lap, but for some reason I just couldn't do it at the end of the lap, and I was too damn stubborn to give up. After 3 hours I once again got to this stage. I took about a minute to psych myself up and make sure I was in position. Then this happened. Yes, I reversed. Sue me, I honestly don't care. I could do the final turn once, so you knew it was possible, but I wasn't doing this track anymore. We know it was possible, it was just, it wouldn't work. It would not work when I was actually on a lap. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but it would not work. End of. On to Netherlands. God, I hate China. Thankfully for my sanity, the Dutch GP was quite easy. The only roadblock coming at the bank turn 3. It wasn't causing me to invalidate, but it was just a little bit of a lottery. Once I was past that, however, the rest of the track was mainly right hand turns, so Zandvoort is possible. Thank God. On to Spain, and I was seriously struggling with PTSD once I realised I had to get through the final chicane. Why the hell couldn't China do that? Spain didn't actually prove to be any issue at all, and with the final chicane you can actually go off track. So with a spin, Spain was easy and our third fully completed track. I didn't have high hopes for Monaco. Extremely limited space to spin, high places to get soft blocked, and this hairpin. Much like the other tracks, if you hit the wall too fast or too hard, the lap is invalidated. On a positive note, I could hit the wall, but I just have to be patient. With this knowledge, the first sector is doable, as long as you take it slow, and take the 2013 time trial line. The next challenge was the hairpin, and really my only option was to use the right hand wall to push me and wall ride it. Oh fuck. Attempt 2 was more successful and I managed to get past the hairpin without invalidating. Now the new bell chicane was quite concerning because every time I tried to wall bounce, I'd get stuck. However, while I was messing around and trying new tactics, I realised if I held the brake and the throttle together, I was somehow able to rotate the car and narrowly avoid the corner cut. I almost got stuck on this little indent, then got stuck at the back similar to Australia. However, on my next attempt I was somehow able to bounce off the wall, and luckily was able to make it through to back without invalidating, albeit being forced to cut this corner. I make it to the swimming pool section and try spinning, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't spin the car around without either getting stuck or invalidating over the curb. Plus, after the pain of China, I couldn't bear to go through the whole lap again, only to just continuously fail at the end. Monaco may well be possible, but after the hell I'd gone through already, I couldn't face it. It was a short visit to Azerbaijan, where the game gives you control, you don't have enough room to bounce off the ball, and if you do go off track, it's an immediate invalidation. And I imagine even if you could make this corner, I'd end up invalidating with a wall hit at the next corner. Canada did scare me with a similar issue to China, invalidating before starting the lap. However, I've clearly been getting better at this because I was able to get through the corner, and after a couple of restarts from the last corner invalidations, Canada was more than doable. There's nothing to say with France other than it's straight up impossible with a long left hand at the start of the lap, and if you go off track it's an immediate invalidation. Austria on the other hand was a cakewalk with only a few corners that needed negotiating. Other than sector 2 it was easy with nothing really to say about it. Britain was a little concerning to start with the game giving you control at an awkward angle. As long as I stopped early enough though, I had enough room to wall bounce and start the lap. With a lot of room to work with around the rest of the track, the only thing of note was to make sure I was as far left as possible on the exit of Stowe without invalidating, just so I had enough room to spin around and make sure I could get to the final few corners. Other than that, Britain was quite easy to complete. Hungary was easy as long as I stayed on the left side of the track. It was actually the first and only track I was able to complete first time, indicating that I'd probably spent too much time on this challenge already. Belgium was a little tough at the start with a similar issue to Canada, but the wider track helped me and I just had to be patient. The next challenge of this track was the no-name corner, which thanks to this extra space wasn't too big an obstacle so long as I didn't get stuck in the corner or try to spin too early. Apart from that, the only other challenge was getting through the final chicane again, and it was pretty straightforward. Italy, as you'd imagine, was also pretty straightforward. The only thing of note was actually discovering a new trick that I probably could have known about earlier on. If you lock up with one wheel on the grass, you're actually able to rotate the car a little, which helped with the final corner. Apart from that, Italy was easy. Oh yeah, also I had to slightly cut Ascari because I kind of ran out of room, but the game didn't invalidate me, so I'm giving myself it. Singapore on the other hand was immediately impossible. I can get one bounce off the wall, but the second I try to spin again, I kept going off track and invalidated. I tried to tactic it from Monaco with trying to rotate the car, but that didn't work either, so we move on to Russia. and Russia was actually pretty easy. Turn 3 took a while to navigate, but it was more than doable with time, and as long as I paid attention and didn't forget I needed to be on the left side. Yes, I did just completely forget what I was meant to be doing, don't judge me. The rest of the track was a breeze. On to Japan, and we have our least favourite thing, a right hand turn to start the lap. And unlike Belgium and Canada, there's absolutely no room to spin the car without invalidating. It's probably for the best because I really didn't have high hopes for this track anyway. USA is another track we can't start because we can't go off track, and I tried the braking tactic but it ended up sending me the wrong way, so Kota isn't possible. Mexico was easy and I would have nailed it first time if I wasn't an idiot, giving it too much throttle and stop blocking myself at the penultimate corner. Second time round I managed to have some intelligence and it's an easy lap. Brazil did look pretty difficult at first glance. And it was. I did think it would be an immediate invalidation when going off track, but surprisingly it wasn't until a few minutes before the line that affected the lap. Now the problem here was I could spin to an extent, but every time I would end up getting stuck on the right hand side, and as soon as I passed the white line my lap would be invalidated. Similar to Monaco, this may be a track that's possible with time, but at this stage I had had enough of spinning and I wanted to be done with this challenge. Don't judge me. Now onto the final track, and thankfully it's doable without any dramas. A few corners took a while to navigate, but with plenty of room to work with, it was actually a pretty easy end to what was a very long 5 hours. Yes, this took me 5 hours and China took up 3 of them. So in the end, 13 out of 22 tracks I attempted was actually possible without turning, and yes, I'm counting China because it is doable, but I just couldn't go through with that pain anymore. There are a few tracks that may well be doable, like Monaco or maybe even Vietnam, but I couldn't manage it. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you do hate yourself and feel like giving this challenge a go, and are able to complete any of the tracks I couldn't, feel free to tweet me on how you did them. If you want to see the full laps of all the tracks I was able to complete, there will be another video on my second channel with all of them on together. I wouldn't recommend headphones because there'll be a lot of engine revving. If you enjoyed this challenge, feel free to like, share, subscribe and give ideas for any other challenges you feel like I could do, because this video was actually quite fun to make with the exception of China. Anyway, thank you guys for watching and I'll see you in my next video.